Hello, welcome to the webinar about Voxtron Communication Center new release. You will be all automatically muted, and you will be or can be on mute for the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. You can check your audio connections anytime and change it if it's necessary. You can send us our questions through the question box at the chat and also through email to my email directly. This webinar is going to be recorded, and after that, you will be receiving a link with the recording and also future information about this topic. So I'll leave you now with Patrick. Thank you.
Thanks, Natasha. Okay, also from my side, welcome to today's webinar. So I will give you a short introduction to the new features of the VCC 1941, our upcoming release. It will go out one of the next days. So first, maybe let's start with a short overview of the new features that will be discussed today. So we have an enhancement, or we have enhanced our Voxtron web client to better support the embedded browsers that are available in unified communications applications. I'll explain you more about that later. There is a new connector available in this version to integrate with our Enghouse Quality Management Suite, our QMS solution. We added the possibility to set up new info fields in the waiting monitor. It was a feature that was requested several times already. We also improved our ERMS email handling module, so there are a number of new interesting usability updates in ERMS. We're rolling out the first version of our integration with the Enghouse EIS, or Enghouse Identity Service, that's integrated with VCC now, and there's then one more smaller feature that I will talk to you about later. Okay, so first, the embedded web client for unified communication applications. Problem with typical embedded browsers and unified communication applications like Microsoft Teams or Cisco WebEx is that when you integrate your web application in this unified communication client, that when you navigate away from the application itself to another tab that's showing other information, like in Teams, you have the actual chat tabs or the Teams or the activity or the calendar tabs, then the unified communication client will halt the applications that are not in focus. Now, in case of a contact center client like the Voxtron web client, that results in an agent log-off because the heartbeat stops of the application. And this also means that there will be no more calls routed to the agent, which is not what a typical call center should do, of course. So we were looking for a solution for that, but it's not the only reason. We also noticed that in standard browsers, not in the embedded UC browsers, but like a browser like in Chrome, they also recently introduced a feature there which they call memory saver. You might have seen the announcements of that feature, and it's already in there now if you go look in your options. And that feature basically does exactly the same. If you enable it, it will make sure that all the tabs in your application that are not in focus are actually halted. These applications just stop running. So if you would use our web client and switch on that feature, you would have the same problem in Chrome. The solution that we built, or the option that we now added to our web client to better cope with this, is that we made it possible for it to store its state persistently. That means that when you move away and the application stops, we actually freeze the last state. So we make sure that it does not get logged off. And when you would then navigate back to the tab in the unified communication application, where you're showing the Voxtron web client, the state will be restored where you left it off and continue from there. So that means that you normally will keep on having receiving routed calls. That's good. But there are, of course, a few consequences, because our application is not running, so we cannot do any keep live polling. So it's possible that the complete UC client is stopped or crashes and that we don't see that. Now, luckily in Foxtron, we have some mechanisms that can deal with that. So for the people who know it, there are these auto pause and auto log off configurations that are available for since the beginning, and they will still, of course, be monitoring it. So if the client is lost and we don't know it, we're still in that frozen state. The first call that is routed and that is not picked up will automatically put that agent in pause or log off, depending on how you've configured it. The solution works both with, for those who know that, we have two different ways of integrating with Microsoft Teams based on direct routing and on SIP, or there is a native Teams integration based on the Graph API. This feature can work with both of them. Of course, it's just a feature in the actual web client, so you can do that with both of these integration scenarios. For the moment, the web client, if it's used in this way, is only suitable for voice. If you want to be able to deal with emails, for instance, in that integrated web client that you see here in the picture, so it's running integrated in Microsoft Teams, then we will need to do some more modifications to deal better with the state. That's not possible for now, so we'll be looking at that later. Okay. Next feature that we changed is we've completely renewed the QMS connector. In this new version of the QMS connector, we made sure that it can now support large installation, which means with QMS, if you have to deal with several dozens or hundreds of extensions that needs to be recorded, QMS can scale up by running multiple recording services. Our previous connector had some trouble working with such an installations that existed of multiple recording services. The new connector can cope with that without problems. So that's a good thing. A similar improvement is the second one, where we also now have support in the connector to deal with high available installations of QMS. So QMS can be installed in a high available mode, where it can do a failover, an automatic failover when something goes wrong with the master QMS installation, and our connector can now deal with that with those scenarios as well. Another new thing that we have is that it's possible to do a playback via the Contact Explorer. With the old connector, that was not possible, so the only way to locate recordings was to go in via the QMS pages and locate the recording there, but sometimes it's convenient to use our Contact Explorer to find one particular contact that you want to have information about or listen to the recording about. So that's now possible, and the way that we did it is that you can use the Contact Explorer as you always do, and if you drill down to one particular contact, there is a link via which you can access the QMS playback page, and you can listen into what was said during the conversation. If you prefer using QMS to find the recordings, we also improved the synchronization of the Foxtron metadata. I called it here with QMS flags. Information like the contact ID from Foxtron, contact codes, the skills, the queue, the customer ID, and the contact properties, they are all available as QMS flags, which means that you can search for recordings in QMS based on these flags. So with a particular skill, with a particular contact code. And this will make it easier for the supervisor to find particular recordings. What is also possible with the QMS integration is that QMS now supports native Teams recording. So if you're using the native Teams integration via the Graph APIs, the fact is that the Foxtron Communication Center never actually gets in touch with the voice, with the audio, so we cannot record it anymore. There are specific APIs in Azure, in Teams, that allow this, and our QMS solution has used these to build the possibility to record native Teams calls. This is not restricted to the contact center calls, but it's actually an extension recording what you can set up. So you can record any extension in your organization in Teams via this interface. Then last but not least is that we also, with this connector, support the latest version of QMS. Why is that important? So the QMS 10.0 version has now a number of functions that use AI to automate certain tasks that in the past require substantial effort. For now, the connector has one limitation, that it only supports voice. So chat and email will be added in a later release. Because QMS can now also deal with chat and email conversations and make sure that you can do evaluations based on that, but that is not supported yet. So that's something that will be added in the next version, so that we can give a complete view over all channels, not just over the voice channel. In QMS 10.0, if you want to deal with let's say the detailed analysis or the automated analysis of the voice recordings, you need a transcription engine. So there's a possibility built into QMS that allows you to transcribe automatically every conversation, every voice conversation that is entered in QMS. And it's based on these transcribed conversations that all the other AI tools will work. And there are, for the moment, 3 available. One is automatic summarization. So if you have a long conversation, you've been on the phone for like 20 minutes, it will be automatically transcribed and there will be a sort of a 1-paragraph summary. So somebody who has to look for information through previous conversations does not have to listen to the whole recording. He can actually read this small summary. Sorry. And immediately get an idea of what the conversation was about. And if he found the one that he is interested in, he can of course still listen to the actual or read through the detailed transcription, but it's a way to save time if you have to look for something that was agreed in the past, for instance. Second thing that is automated based on AI is that the evaluation of agent was one of the key features of QMS, can now be automated. So before, most of our customers had some kind of listened into some conversations, like 3% of an agent's conversations before they started an evaluation session with an agent, and that 3% sometimes did not give them the proper bill, because if you happen to just pick out the 3 good ones or the 3 bad ones, can be a really big difference. Now, by automating this, we can actually make sure that we have 100% coverage. So the engine will evaluate based on all the recordings that we have. So you get a complete picture, and it will also automatically fill in then these scorecards. So they will be pre-filled in, something that normally then was done by the coach by talking to or by listening into all the conversations. That's done automatically now. This will also take away the subjective aspect of coaching. So it can be that on the personal level, a coach appreciates somebody more just because they have a better connection. So this is more subjective evaluation, let's say. So by using these tools, it becomes more objective. And this also allows you then to, let's say, coach where it is necessary. The third one, it's actually the last one in the bottom here, is our voice of the customer analysis tool, call it VECO. So all the data can also be uploaded to that tool, and that tool is intended to give you an insight on how to improve your contact center KPIs, for instance. So it will give you an idea of how people think of you based on what is being said in all the conversations. So the more conversations you upload between your agents and your end customers, the better conclusions VECO will be able to provide you. And it will give you an insight in, for instance, if you've done a survey and you have some KPIs that are not good, that's great to know or not great to know, but you still don't know how to improve them. With FECO, we can give you an idea on where you should improve to turn these KPIs up, to improve them. Okay. Next feature is a smaller one, but it's one that has been requested, as I said before, several times. So we added 2 new info fields. It's a special type of contact property in Voxon Communication Center context. And they were added and they're made available in the waiting monitor. And these info fields, it are 2. It's not an unlimited list, but there are 2 separate fields that can be used for this. They can be configured to hold useful contact information. And for voice calls, the data can be written into these fields in the IVR. So it can be user input. I mean, if you want to have an opt-in via DTMF or however, you can actually mark that in one of these info fields. Or it can also be information that you retrieve from a CRM system. Those things are possible. For emails, it's sort of the same. So data can be written in these info fields from within our routing rules, that are rules that are executed when every time an email comes into our system. And here you can also build routing rules to extract certain information from the mail itself and write that in one of these info fields. Or just like before with the voice calls, you can also go to the CRM system with the email address and find out the information of that person that you have in your CRM, or information that you have in your CRM system. So by showing it in the waiting monitor, it will appear there as as 2 extra columns. So examples of information that go in those fields is an email subject. That was the first reason, or the main reason why it was requested, this feature, because our contacts are interaction type independent. So we did not have the subject because a mail is a subject, but the call doesn't. So now we have this info field. You can actually insert in a routing rule the email subject in that field. So you see it in the waiting monitor. Other examples are an SLA status from a CRM system, VIP status of a customer, his balance on his bank account. I mean, if that's the kind of thing your agent need to know when somebody's calling, so you can add those kinds of information in there. So I already said that the info field will show up as a column, and because it shows up there, it can help your supervisors to make the right decisions. So when a supervisor is managing the waiting queue, the info fields will help him identify specific contacts that might require special attention. I mean, if it has the VIP flag set, he knows that, and it's waiting there for a long time, or you see that it's a queue where it's very busy, he might just intervene and move it to another queue, or even deal with it himself. So that's the use case behind this, and that's how they can use it to increase the efficiency or the customer experience where necessary. So next up are a number of usability updates that we did in our email management solution, our ERMS module. So we made searching through previous older emails easier now by making sure that there is a search window available when you're in normal reply mode as well, and not only in the merge mode as we did before. So to accomplish this, we moved the search field to the left pane in the RMS client window. There's a separate tab now next to the email thread view. And the merge mode itself is also now updated, of course, to use this new window. It does not have the it's using the same search window that is available for every type of action that you want to do to the mail. When you're using a merge, so when you actually select the merge action, so you receive a mail, you think that you need to merge it, that it's a duplicate from another one. So you start the merge action, then we will automatically launch a search looking for the 5 most probable candidates to merge with. And that's just based on the 5 last emails that were received from the same email sender address. That will be automatically populated in the search. So if you find the email that you want to merge this one with, then you can just select it and commit the merge, and that's it. The third point that's mentioned here is that it's now also possible to add one of the older emails. So you do a search and you have your search result. You open one of the email threads that is in your search result, and then you can actually attach one of the emails from an email thread to your current reply mail, if that makes sense. So, and the idea is, of course, if an agent finds a similar answer in the via the search, that he can just pick that old answer and attach it to a new reply, and therefore work more efficiently, close the email faster. Then the first, the next feature is a little bit similar. So it's also an agent that wants to use the email history as in a reply, but sometimes the email has been gone back and forth more internally, and there are some comments in there that are not for the customer's eyes. But still there is valuable information in there that you want to send to the customer. So instead of typing it all over in the reply, you can pick one of the previous emails in the email thread and say, I want to send this as part of my email history. And then we will open two editors, so you can edit your normal reply, and the history is shown in the tab below here, but you can still edit it. So if there are comments in there that are not suitable for the end customer to see, you can just delete them and only send the right stuff to the end customer. Then the last thing that we did is we just improved the attachment field. So our attachment field in our email client was a little bit mangled. It wrapped around the file names, and if they then were long, it was very difficult to see. You could only see one or two attachments. And if you had more, it was not so nice. So now it's built so that you always see at least 4 to 5 attachments. And if the names are too long, it uses scroll bars instead of starting wrapping around these names. And it's even possible now to resize it as well if you want to, so you can see even more. Okay. Then I also mentioned in the introduction, in the overview, the integration with the Enghouse Identity Service. So first of all, this is not generally available yet. It's a rather complex feature, especially qua configuration. So we want to start carefully and try it out. There are also on our side a few things that still needs to improve over time. But if you think that this is important, you can talk to me and we can discuss if we can do something together. So what is it? EIS is the Enghouse Cloud, is an Enghouse Cloud service that will be available soon, and that offers an identity service. For the moment, we only integrated it in the native Foxtron client. So, and the web client will follow in the next Foxtron release. EIS itself is based on two industry standards, the OpenID Connect standard and the SCIM standard, which stands for System for Cross-Domain Identity Management. And OpenID Connect is the standard that supports user authentication, so it provides a generic way for somebody to identify him or herself to an application. And SCIMS is related to it, of course, but it's used made for the user provisioning part. So it's responsible for distributing the identities to the different applications. Now, EIS can work with an internal IDP, which means that the identities themselves are managed by EIS. It's also possible to link EIS with an external identity provider like Microsoft Active Directory. That makes the setup even more complex, but it's possible. So the main benefit of this is that all Enghouse applications and components would only have to integrate with the EIS. So it sort of shields us from different identity providers. That's one benefit. Another benefit is that EIS supports this advanced authentication scheme. So if everybody has heard of multi-factor authentication, I assume. So that's a scheme that is supported by EIS out of the box. Also, when it comes to single sign-on, this will make it easier to provide proper and secure single sign-on over all the components of an Enghouse solution. So if you have Voxtron system with an integrated QMS and Eptica, then they will all be able over time to link with EIS. But that's also one of the reasons why we do not make it generally available. Not all the Enghouse components are already integrated with EIS for the moment, so they are working on it. It's on their roadmaps, and it will probably be rolled out over the next year or so. Then, last feature I wanted to mention is an add-on, is the following one. So in the native Foxtron client, we use the Chromium embedded framework to render HTML. So you know that we can integrate HTML pages in there. That's now done with the Chromium embedded framework. It's the same thing that Chrome, the browser, uses to render HTML pages. Now, Google, because that's one who is developing this Chromium embedded framework, they continuously update this framework with new versions, security updates or other updates. So the feature updates of that component are not really under our control. We cannot control which new features we get, and we have to follow this evolution for security reasons. So one of the latest CEF updates removed the possibility to refresh a browser page. So in the past, you could right-click in our client where you were showing this page, right-click and say refresh, and there were several people who were using that to refresh a Contact Explorer query. So the use case was you create a query for an agent to show all the contacts that they had this day. Of course, it's not automatically refreshed. So every now and then when they went to this page in our client, they just right-clicked, refreshed, and they got an update of all the contacts that they had. Now, since this refresh button is gone, that's not possible anymore. And that is why we decided to implement the refresh button or a refresh button in our application itself. So if you now have a Contact Explorer query result page, there will be a refresh button so that you can click it and rerun that same query and get an update of the result. Okay, so that was it. If there are any questions, then I think Natasha can enable the unmute, or you can type it into the chat, and then I will do my best to answer them. Okay, so if there are no questions, then as Natasha said in the beginning, we will make sure that you get a copy of the recording and a little bit more information that we can send out on the release. And if you have any questions, you can always contact us.
Thank you.
So thanks for your attention. Bye.